To the BNS channel. Today is To-Do Tuesday. No, I just made that up. I wanted to share something with you in regards to what to do with your Scentsy Wax when it doesn't smell anymore. And I know a lot of you just take the Scentsy Wax and you dump it in the trash, and that's perfectly fine. That's safe, which is awesome. But I wanted to show you a way that you could recycle it and to make it as a useful item that you can use all summer and winter long. So I want to show you a couple things, and then we're going to get into the how-tos. So first and foremost, the easiest part that I do is when I wipe out my warmers with a napkin, I actually save the napkins and they get hard, and this is actually a great fire starter. So because of the wax that's already in the paper towel, that will hold the ability to maintain a flame in your fire, and then the pieces that are not soaked with wax can be the quick start for the fire. So you throw that right into your fire and that will help. Now, cosmetically, they are not the cutest things, so this is all I do, is I save them, and of course they get hard, and that's what I do. So I just throw them in a Ziploc bag, they harden up in the Ziploc bag, and I just save them. So I can use this instead of newspaper. So that's a way to recycle as well, because if you're using the paper towel already, you can reuse it by using it as a fire starter. Now, on the topic of fire starters, I'm creating what they call Kindle Cones, and I'll put the spelling up there. So it's Kindle Cones, and I'll show you how I do this. Right now I'll just show you kind of what happens during the phase of. So it starts off that when my wax is no longer smelling, I take a mason jar and I actually pour the wax right in here, and you'll notice that it kind of creates different colored layers because it hardens on top of the other and ends up looking like this, which is kind of neat. So this is just basically one that I took out of the mason jar, and of course when it comes out it's a little warm, so when I put it down on the counter it started to push up and it made this like little bulb on the bottom. But so this is just the soft paraffin wax, and basically I can, well, see, like that's separated. Basically I can utilize this to make my Kindle Cones. So that's what I have to do. So over the month or so, every time I get done using one of my warmers and it's no longer scented, I pour it in here and I let it harden. And the reason that I took this out is because I only have one of these jars, and I'll probably get more. So what I do is I put it in the microwave for about a minute. It just softens the edges, and then I pop it out and I put this in a Ziploc bag as well just to save it. So when I'm ready to do my cones, I'll have a bunch of wax that's ready to go. So that is the portion of saving. Now, the other thing that you're going to need are pine cones, and I mean actual pine cones. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can do this. So you can either collect pine cones, or you can collect what they call spruce cones or fir cones, which are a lot smaller. They look the same, but they're just smaller. Or you can also collect or gather up wood shavings. So if you know somebody that does woodwork and they have wood shavings, you can also collect that. So you're going to need to work on saving your wax. You're going to wipe clean your dishes and save your paper towels with the wax on them. And you're going to go and you're going to collect some pine cones and some fir cones. So those are the items that you're going to need. And also, as far as for collecting over time, you're also going to be needing some, I can't think of the word. You're going to need some cupcake papers. And I'll get those in a moment. But I just wanted to show you what you're going to need, and the rest of the video is going to be showing you how to make them. So stay tuned. Okay, so I have my cupcake papers. I have a paper plate just so that I can put them on that, so that if there's any wax that seeps through the paper, it won't get on my counter. I wanted to show you a couple different sizes of pine cones that you can utilize. These are both pine cones, and these are the little spruce cones that I was referring to. So these are spruce and fir cones. They basically look the same, but they're obviously a lot smaller. So you would actually utilize a few of these together in your Kindle cone. Okay? So as we're speaking right now, I'm melting a portion of my wax. And again, remember that once you melt this all together, those colors are going to kind of blend together. So it's probably not going to be as pretty. If you want to make the cones a specific color, then I would suggest that you melt only the piece of color that you want. So right now, mine's actually going to be that top red part. And that's the color that's melting right now, and it's ready, so I'm going to go get the wax right now. So my wax is melted, and all I used was a Pyrex measuring cup, glass, obviously, to go ahead and melt the wax piece that I had. So there's quite a bit in there. For this demo, I'm probably not going to use all of it, but that's okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our cupcake, why can't I remember the name of this? Our cupcake papers. And these are the only ones that I had, and they're Christmas. So, but you're not going to really need to worry about that. Now, there's two different ways. We can either use decorative cupcake papers, because you can leave the paper on, because obviously the paper is also burnable. Or we can take them off, and I'll show you a finished result of one with and one without. So, first what I want to do is I'm going to use the spruce cones, and I'm going to go ahead and put in as many as will fit without making too much of a mess. And I want to make sure that I position them so that when the wax is melted, or when it's hardened, that it actually makes kind of a little pretty ensemble. So in this case, what I've done is just basically put them in there. I don't know if you can see that. And what I'm going to try to do is have this little one kind of stand up in the middle. So I'm going to fix that up here. Give me a moment. And I should be able to do that without too much of a hassle. Okay, and so that one's done. And now I'm going to take one of the other pine cones. And this one's a little bit harder because it's obviously bigger than the paper. So basically what I want to do is just lay it in there. However, the first thing that I'm going to do for the larger cone is I want to dip the top of it in wax so that the top of it also gets coated with the wax. So basically all you have to do for that is to, and I don't know if you can see that, is just dip it in the wax. Make sure that it gets nice and submerged, and it won't take very long once it's out for it to harden. So you just let it drip, and those drips actually make some nice decoration on top of the pine cone. I'm going to dip it at least twice because I want a nice thick coat on the outside, on the tip of it. And even if the bottom of it doesn't all get covered with wax, it's okay because the top is going to have the wax on there. So you'll notice that it's still dripping, which means that it's the wax is really hot. And I probably let it cook for too long. So You might want to let it cool down a little bit too before you get started with this. I was just so excited to start this whole thing with you guys. Okay, so it's still dripping. Even if it drips down in the cone, it's going to be okay, but you'll notice that there's a fine coat of wax on top of it. And what I want to do is I want to let that harden a little bit so that I can put another coat on. And I actually think I might do it 3 or 4 times. You really can do it as many times as you want to get the thickness of wax that you want. It's completely up to you. And like in this case, what's happening by me putting it straight up and down is the wax is kind of pooling down into the bottom, which is awesome. So we'll let this harden, and maybe I'll dip it a couple more times, and we'll be back. Okay, I wanted to, while this is hardening, I wanted to let you know that there are going to be some of you watching this video that don't have pine trees. Now, I can't even imagine that, but, you know, my friends in Florida and California, there are not many pine trees out there. So you can actually buy pine cones at a craft store. The only thing I'm going to suggest and tell you is that if you do buy them, that you be careful to get ones that are not painted, because the paint actually has chemicals in it that could cause chimney fires. It could cause fumes to be put into your home if you're using this as a wood stove in your home. I would suggest that if you have to get ones that are painted, such as these, that you use them for campfires only. Okay? So for instance, this has got the glitter and the paint. You know, I have a few of them, and I use these for decorations, but if you don't have pine cones laying on the ground, you can go buy them at the craft stores. Okay? Okay, so now we're ready to pour. The one that I have been dipping is a little bit thicker, and you can see that the wax has pooled a little bit up at the top. So now it has wax on the top. The larger ones are a lot harder to pour because you kind of have to hold them in place while you're pouring so that they don't make a mess all over the place. So I'm going to move some of this stuff so that you can see what I'm doing. So I've got my cupcake paper. I'm holding the pine cone in place as well as I can, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour the wax around and on pine cone. Now I don't want to do too much because I don't want the paper to melt away, obviously, and I'm just going to let it sit there. The quicker I get this into the freezer, the better, because it will hold the pine cone in place and the paper will maintain its form. So I'm going to go put this in the freezer. Okay, so the big one is in the freezer, hardening. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, Edie, why aren't you using a muffin pan? If Edie had a muffin pan, Edie would be using a muffin pan. Because a muffin pan will actually maintain the shape of the cupcake paper, and that way you don't have to worry about it falling over, and it actually helps with keeping the pine cone standing up. So one of these days I'm going to go out and buy myself a cupcake pan just to make Kindle cones, because I don't bake muffins. Okay? Okay. All right, so now we've got the little one with our spruce cones, and I put one standing up in the middle just to make it look a little bit cuter. And I'm going to go ahead and pour my wax on and around these. And pine cones do float, just so you know. Okay? So they're going to rise up, and I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the freezer, and I'm going to come back and show you what they look like. Now, waiting for them to harden, I just wanted to show you that whatever you've got left for melted wax, obviously don't throw it away. Pour it right back in, and you can reuse it later. So this is basically all I do for the warmers themselves when the wax is not scented anymore. and I just pour it inside of here and I let that harden. And we can go for another couple, 3 rounds with this. So we're gonna have Kindle Cones here in a moment, and I hope you have any questions. You're gonna make sure that you put comments below. So we'll be back with the results in just a second. Okay, so we're still waiting for them to cool down, but I wanted to give you an inside tip. If you're working with real pine cones, make sure you have a wet one with you, because what happens is these little suckers produce sap. And if you're warming them with the touch of your finger, your body heat, there is sap that will get released onto you. Therefore, you need to wipe that off because sap is extremely sticky. So that's just an inside tip. Okay, guess what? It's done, it's ready. One thing that I want to mention before I show you the finished product is I had gone on Pinterest and saw that someone had posted something in regards to doing the same type of thing, but with dryer lint and the old unused portion of the egg crates that you get your eggs in, and putting the dryer lint in each of the egg forms and then pouring wax in that. I think you could do that with wood chips, but I live with a firefighter and he swore me not to do that because the lint that collects in our dryers is hair. It could be particles from your clothing, and he said that those are very flammable, which we want it to be flammable, but the worst part is that it could actually collect inside of your chimney and cause a chimney fire. And you can also have fumes that are set out into the house. If you're going to use the lint, make sure you use it in the campfires, which would be outside. That would be the place to use the lint ones if you're going to use your excess lint from your dryer. So that's a great way to recycle that. But what I want to show you is how awesome these look. I'm so excited. Okay, so I pulled them out of the freezer, and there's 2 different types, and I'm going to take a seat here. The first one is our large one. So the large one looks like this, and it hardened inside with the wax, and very simple, but now it's hardened and I can use that in as a fire starter, or what they call a Kindle cone. The other one looks like this, and it's kind of hard to see without good lighting. Maybe you can see that better. So inside are the cones, and this is the one that I'm actually going to take out of the wrapper so that you can see what it looks like outside of the wrapper. This one, I might even just throw it in just like this, but also I could take it off if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave it in there. But this one I want to take off. So sometimes it's really easy to take the paper off, sometimes it's not so easy. It depends on how long it's been sitting in the wax, but if you work at it like you would a regular muffin, you can work at the sides to take the wax off, and it should come out fairly easy, just like that. So this is the finished product. I think they are adorable. You could actually make these and give them as gifts if you wanted to put it in like a mesh bag and have a bunch of them in there, and you could use this as kindling. But these are absolutely adorable, don't you think? And if you used something like this with wood chips, same thing, you'd have the pieces of wood sticking out. But these are very cute, which these little ones are more abundant than the big ones. But what I like about the big ones is these are good decorations too, and if you can put enough layers of wax on the outside, on the top part, it can look really, really cool. For the case of seeing what it looks like, I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the wrapper so that we can see what it looks like. But these are coming out really good because I froze them long enough. So there, that's what that one looks like. Kind of looks like a little Reese's cup. Aren't those awesome? So these are what we made today. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you have any suggestions, by all means, I love suggestions, you know that. And have fun making your project. These are Kindle Cones. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like if you liked this video, because I like doing videos like this. This was fun. Thanks again for joining me here on the BNS channel. You guys have yourselves a sensational day.